Weather and flooding are all possible today in parts of the south central U.S. and up into the upper Midwest as well. And as of right now, we have an MCV moving through the central U.S. is bringing shower and thunderstorms into Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And shower and thunderstorms up here in Michigan as well, with maybe some flooding concerns this morning with more isolated convection. Looks like another maybe MCV type moving through Wisconsin, Minnesota. And we have our 500 millibar upper level low streaming onshore here out west, which is going to bring our severe weather threat this week. So in today's forecast, I'm going to cover the severe weather threat and excessive rainfall threat today into tomorrow, and briefly go over what the extended forecast looks like overall. Not get into specifics, but just go over what my thoughts are about the pattern and what's going to be in the future here. So begin the forecast today. We're going to look at 700 millibars, which is between 500 and at the surface. So it'll give us a good indication of what the short waves are in the atmosphere today, this morning, right? We have a short wave up here, and the reflection of this kind of going down this way, right? Okay. And so that is lifting to the north. There's an MCV associated with it moving through the flow. And you have like a little dip up here as well, just some general height falls, right? That moves off to the east some. And you have a general nebulous flow left behind here. But one thing to keep in mind is that this is 700 millibars, so this isn't the surface flow, right? So the short waves maybe moved off to the east, but you still have a lot of moisture in place with these overlapping ingredients. And what looks like maybe a subtle change here in the heights down here to the south, although not very pronounced. All right, so let's look at the surface real quickly here, as well as 850 millibars closer to the surface. So you can see you have a surface flow that's moving up into Canada, and that's where most of your enhanced flow is. But you see I have some enhancement here just to the east of the Rockies, what looks like another surface flow developing here. All right, some flow coming from the south, maybe to the west here, and so right along the lee side of the Rockies, maybe some enhancement overnight. Let's see, back this up. Right, you get into the afternoon hours, maybe a little bit of a kink in the height falls here in the evening hours. Okay, all right, and so that's 850 closer to the surface. And as you get into the nighttime hours, you get the low-level jet which develops here. But up to the north is where we have the flooding risk. So, you know, this is probably why we have a flooding risk here, is because you have much more enhancement of the flow pattern up here as well, with moisture streaming far to the north. Okay. Now, given that that surface low is moving to the north and east today, all the way up into, you have moisture dew points near 70 degrees down here in southern Texas, 60 degrees all the way up into Minnesota, right? And let's put the severe outlook on the map real quick to review this. So, you know, you have this enhancement down to the south with severe risk, up to the north here where International Falls, Thunder Bay, and parts of Idaho, right? And your tornado risk is enhanced up here along the frontal boundary, warm front. So we know what's going on here. You can see from this where the frontal boundary is here, like according to HRRR. Now, I mean, depends where this ends up setting up, right? There's a marginal risk of strong tornadoes here. The ingredients are much more favorable as far as kinematics, of course, not kinematics, thermodynamics further to the south, all right? But temperatures are marginal up along the warm front here. But if any convection can fire to surface south of this warm front, then we definitely get some tornadoes. So that's enough about that. And when I talk about thermodynamics, I'm talking about moisture and instability in the atmosphere, right? This is mixed layer cape, which you can see in the eastern part of this area. maybe where we had some convection just move out of there. We got less instability because the atmosphere had been worked over. Anyway, you can see mixed layer Cape value is very high down here, 3,000 joules per kilogram. All right. Initially, we have this surge right along this boundary here. So that's where we get that threat. And not here in the western U.S. We're not going to discount the severe threat here as well. Although with the higher terrain and things like that, with marginal thermodynamics, we of course can always get storms here. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. All right, move to 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. You also have a dry line. It's kind of nebulous here, it looks like. All right, so we'll analyze the dry line in a minute. See the Cape level surge to the north here as we get a little further in time and to the east. So I think that threat up here in the northern part will be early in the day as the instability moves to the east here. And we have a maximized instability gradient up here in northern Texas and all along this line here. So you can see what I mean here by the dry line. It gets a little bit more defined as we move further to the east, but it's way over here. You have almost two different gradients here. One with a 60, 70 degree dew points are, and another one further to the east, to the west, excuse me, but plenty of moisture here otherwise, right? So if we get some storms of fire along this gradient somewhere, that could be the impetus for some severe weather as well. And look at the moisture down here in the southern part of this area. Pretty soupy atmosphere streaming back to the north and west as we get into the evening hours. And you can see here, this model I think is depicting this pretty well with maybe an outflow boundary here as a result of some convection may be ongoing in the south central part of the forecast area today. Right, so we're backing this up a little bit. Okay, ongoing storms moving to the north and east here, so convection will continue to fire today all along a boundary here, right? And we've been talking about this boundary and where it will be as it moves to the south and east. Just a lot of different storms, not a lot of rotating updrafts here, but if we do get some isolated storms to form here, they could bring some severe hail as well as some gusty wind. You see a few updraft velocity swaths here. This is a triple R model. So let's look at the wind gusts with it. To start off with, you got that MCV move to the north. It may leave another boundary, is what you're seeing here down to the south and east with some higher gusts up here in the central U.S. As that line moves to the east, you see maybe some higher winds associated with that. And this model may not pick up some of these gusts really well, and it's possible we could get some rotating storms if we get an MCV to form in this area. So we'll just have to see how that plays out today. It doesn't look that impressive overall, but you never know, guys. So like we talked about, the biggest threat down here is hail. So next we're going to analyze the northern part of this mode real quickly next. I know this isn't really centered up north here, but I can't really do this with this model. You can see up in the northern part of this mode where we got a 994 millibar low moving to the north and east here, right? So a warm front associated with that moves to the north. You can see where the warm front is, generally just in this area here, all right? And associated flow on the south of it moving to the north here, okay? And of course, we reviewed this, but dew points are highest on just to the south of this frontal boundary, all right? Instability, it's marginal up here, but it's high enough to have convection firing along this just to the south of the frontal boundary, right? Where that surface flow, maybe triple point is, all right? So to finalize this, I want to go. This is a good parameter to look at, right? This is 0 to 3 kilometer lapse rates as well as surface-based cape, right? Less greater than 500 joules per kilogram, right? So when we have low level lapse rates that are relatively steep, and we have surface-based cape that is relatively high, um, we can get convection firing here. You see where the best dynamics are, thermodynamics and lapse rates, right? Um, are maximized this afternoon as we go into the evening hours, and then moves away. So generally between like 2 and 8:10 p.m. probably the best, right? And this is a sounding that I took from that area. Um, it's let's see, hour 9, so 19Z. So that's a few hours from now, right? One thing I've noted is there's quite a bit of dry air aloft, and the photographs aren't that impressive, right? But wherever this warm front is, you see significant hail, and that kind of concerns me for our tornado threat. With all this dry air aloft, I'm not sure that we're gonna have um, just it's going to be a lot of downdrafts, based convection, right? You get a lot of downdrafts, and cool air can really quash any tornado threat. So we'll just have to see how this plays out. So what's the future hold for severe weather and any change in our pattern? It doesn't really look like our pattern is going to change much here. You see we got our 500 millibar trough swinging through from south to north here with high pressure in control in the southeast. And this is a GFS ensemble, right? So this shows overall 500 millibar anomalies. These are higher than normal. Out west here is lower than normal, right? So southerly flow keeps going here, and GFS wants to really develop this low into the weekend. So the general troughiness moves to the north, and then maybe you got a high pressure ridge building out west here. You see general south to north flow continues here through the April 21st, which is 9 days from now. If you compare this to the euro, all the way moving this through looks pretty similar up to this point. Trough moves in, maybe a more of a suppression of the ridge, but remaining dry here in the southeast. Another trough, and was just swing another trough through, which the GFS generally does as well. This is April 21st. So not particularly deep, but still this trough here, ridge in the southeast. Very stubborn flow here. Maybe a northwest flow taking over here in parts of the northern part of the country here. And you can see you get the initial ridging here in the northeast, and then that northerly flow comes back in towards the end of this period. You go even further out. Let's go all the way out. Maybe it wants to flatten the ridge all the way down here. Maybe bringing a more zonal type flow to the southeast, which could bring us some rain here in the future. But in the short to midterm, pretty much a rinse and repeat pattern with repeated rounds of heavy rainfall and severe weather out west. Stay safe out there, guys. God bless y'all. Take care. Have a great day.